Hello and welcome to Getter Farms. We're back with another episode of Susquehanna River Valley. That's going to get easier to say hopefully here eventually. And our MX285 and planter are up here at the farm. And so we're going to go ahead and just get this thing backed into the shed here. It'd be a shame to have our new upgraded machinery here just kind of sitting out. And we're going to jump into a few different things here today. I've been looking at the map and looking at what we want to do on this farm here, and I think we're going to make a quick change. And we're going to do so while staying within our rules boundaries here. And so, thinking about the fact that we're going to run dairy, we need a little bit of alfalfa for hay, we're going to need some corn for silage, and we're going to need some corn for just plain feeding the cows themselves. I also thought it'd be fun to put a couple of chickens in this chicken coop over here, and so for that we're going to need a little bit of wheat or barley. Now, if I look here, we've currently got these two fields, 12 and 134, associated with the main farm, and then I'd picked up field 19 as a good additional field. But I really don't want to plant alfalfa slash wheat or barley on a field this size, especially because our cedar is so small. And so I was looking down here. There's this nice little plot of land here with two small fields in it. And so I think what we're going to do is we're actually going to sell field 19 and get back our $62,000. And we're going to purchase field 137 and 139 for $40,000. And that's going to give us the opportunity to do a little bit of smaller crops down there and not overdo it. And also give us just a smidge more money back in the bank to work with. And so we'll definitely be working on expanding the farm after we get our first harvest in here. But I think this is going to work out a little bit better for us. And so we're going to get the 8950 out here, I think, and hook it up to this little cedar that we've got. It's a bit overkill. I think this 8950 is about a 250 horse tractor. I think it's actually set up as 249 in game, so just a smidge under. And I had some comments about the other tractor being a little bit too big. If we actually come in here and look, this is only a 287 horse tractor. It's a MX285. The numbers tend to line up with the horsepower rating. And so really all three of our tractors are on the quote-unquote smaller side by farm sim standards, so we don't have any tractors over 300 horse. And so we've had some comments about wanting to put the planter on the 8950. The planter does have a 250 horse requirement, and so I know in real life I would definitely run a 16-row planter on a tractor like this 8950. And so we might take a look at that here as we get going and decide which tractor makes sense for putting on the planter and which is going to go on the tillage here. So we're going to pull this out here into the yard, and then we've got to go and get our truck with the trailer. We parked that over here in the garage. We've got all the seed loaded up on the back of the truck, so we're going to need to get that out here and fill up these planters today. Now, before we fill up the planters, let's take a quick look at the season's planting menu. So I did change geos. I went and found that there was a Georgetown, New York geo that released with the Georgetown map that Nitrodad also did. And this geo has a planting calendar set up for all of these additional crop types and stuff that have been added into this map. And so this felt like a better match for what we're trying to do here. And as you can see here, we could already plant wheat and we can already plant our alfalfa here. Because the temperature is warm enough. And so we're going to go ahead and be getting started on both of these things today, I hope. And while we're talking about installing updates, there was an update to the map since I recorded the first video. And so if you are using the originally released version of the map, the 1.0 version, there is now a 1.1 version that has been uploaded separately to Nexus mods, and it does add some things. It separates out the corn syrup factory, I believe, as a separate mod, and has some other bug fixes and stuff in there. So it looks like we've got our seed loaded up here, and we're going to need just a little bit of dry fertilizer as well. I'd like to be able to fertilize while we plant here because we are running with precision farming. All right, we went ahead and filled this seeder up. We've got seed, we've got dry fertilizer, and we're gonna take this down. We're gonna do both the alfalfa and the oats in these two smaller fields that we just picked up. And so I believe they're gonna be right down the little road here, right across from this lagoon by our two animal areas. So real close up to the farm here, which is good because this tractor is a smidge slower than some of the more modern ones that I've been driving around in Farm Sim. Although I should say, when I was on the farm, I don't know that we ever got tractors going even 26 miles an hour. I think most of the time we were driving down the road, you know, I was driving in maybe a 4240 or a 4850 or something, and you got going 18, 20 miles an hour, and you were doing pretty good. So we're here on 137 and 139, and so 139 has the better yield because of the soil type here. It has a loam soil type, and if I look at this, they're both going to need some form of nitrogen. I think what we'll do is we'll put the alfalfa in this field here, and then we'll put the wheat in the lower field where we're going to get a little bit better yields. And so I am looking at the size of this field. I think we're going to, do the up and down rows thing here. I was thinking maybe that the rows would go better the other way, but this looks good. So I don't know if I'm going to need to come down here with the cultivator and till this up first, or if this seeder is going to let me do a direct drill here. So we're going to get lined up. This implement is a lot smaller than I'm used to. And we're going to go ahead and just put this alfalfa in right here. It does not appear to be planting anything. Let's just double check. I do not think that this little implement is going to be good for... Nope, it doesn't look like it's going to be good for direct drill. So we're going to just bring this up here into the path area, put it off the headland, and we're going to go get the other tractor and set that up to do a little tillage for us real quick here. Alright, so we're going to give this 285 a chance to show us what it's got here. I'm looking forward to getting this thing out in the field. So let's just go ahead and get this unfolded. Now, I keep looking at this field, and I keep thinking it's wider the other way than this way. I think maybe we will go the long rows. There's no cars coming right at the moment, so we're going to just run down here real quick with our implement all unfolded on the road. And go ahead and just knock these rows out real quick. Now, this was something I was curious about. I haven't had a chance to test, but it does look like there's multi-terrain angle here, which is good, because otherwise I would have had to stop and go add that. I'm always a big fan when the mod authors take the time to add multi-terrain angle to the map. It just gives it that much more realistic feel. And so let's go ahead and set up a GPS track here. And if I just whip around here, I probably shouldn't be driving on the neighbor's field here. We'll apologize for that a little bit later and be more careful next time we turn around. Is this actually going? Oh, so this is interesting. These fields aren't on a 90-degree basis, are they? This is kind of a crooked field. Interesting. I just, without thinking about it, was setting up a 180-degree GPS track here. So let me see if I can figure out what angle this is supposed to be. Maybe we will go up here and follow these rows, because that'll be a little bit easier. Drive straight here. Also, these rows are 90 degrees, so maybe we will just go this way after all. See what happens. And of course our planter tractor is right in the way. So we're going to go ahead and just take this edge right back down, because if I miss that little smidge, I'm going to be upset later. And so we've got everything set up and working here. We're going pretty good. It looks like the work speed is actually 8 miles an hour on this implement, which is acceptable. It's a pretty wide disc here. I do have an upgraded version of this, which is a little bit wider. I think I need to set my width of my implement a little bit better here for GPS, so we've missed yet another little bits. But I think I've got that fixed now. But yeah, there's actually a wider version of this implement that I could get. I was just worried about having enough horsepower to pull it. I wasn't sure which equipment we were going to be picking up, so at some point here we may look to upgrade. If we come in here and look under disc arrows, I've got the 345 right now. This 375 is even larger, but it requires quite a bit bigger of a machine, so it'll be a little while before we get to that. And we've got this going pretty good. I've got my case shirt and hat on to appropriately reflect our alignment in this series. So I'm somewhat proud that I managed to convince myself to switch out of the John Deere for the first time since I started playing Farm Sim, I'm pretty sure. So there you go. And yeah, we're gonna make a quick work of this field here, so let's get to it. Alright, so we're here doing the last little bits on this field with the tillage tool, and I think what we're gonna do is once we finish this up, maybe set a worker off on hitting some of this while we bust out the cedar here. And so I think what I'll do is just take off this headland pass right over here real quick, and maybe the one by the other road. Ooh, we're not actually tilling anything here. I don't have access to this land. Did I Oh, this isn't my field. My field is the other one to the south there. Oh, my bad. Well, at least we weren't able to cause any issues. I didn't actually get around to looking in cab on this tractor. It looks pretty nice. Alright, well that was embarrassing. Let's go ahead and get into the right field here. And we'll just take the first pass off up here to give us a little bit of room. Actually, I think I'm going to let the worker go back and forth this way. And so maybe I'll just start this worker off like so. And I think if I hop off here, he's going to keep going. And that's going to let us go get working on this seeding. While he does a little bit of tillage. Because we were really kind of hoping to see how this was going to work out for us. And so this little cedar... Oh, we missed a smidge right there. I suppose I should go back and get the tillage tool and take care of this little tiny bit that we missed. Otherwise, that's going to haunt me for the rest of the season. It's always the little things that give you the most trouble. And so we're gonna... Yes, I know, I'm blocking you. We're gonna ride along here. He might as well finish his pass. And we'll take over here and go take over that spot. Now, I am gonna have to be careful with using workers, because we don't have a lot of money. And I suspect that there's gonna be other jobs later on in the year that we're gonna want to do ourselves. And so we're gonna be very thoughtful about it. But I am going to turn on worker wages for both auto drive and courseplay as well, so that if I do decide to use them instead of just the in-game worker that I've just started using here, we will be appropriately charged for any of those activities as well. So we definitely want to see ourselves playing the game a little bit more fairly here on this particular series especially. And so I'm going to get going back here on our 180. and start that worker back off. I do think it makes sense to use workers for some things, as we have enough machinery to keep a few people running, and otherwise we're going to be here for a very long time to get some of these jobs done. And so I want to make sure we are being efficient. I am going to set up our GPS track here, though, because especially with such a narrow implement, I want to make sure that we are staying straight here on these rows and we don't miss any bits. And so we've got alfalfa going in here, we've got fertilizer being applied, and of course I lifted this implement up just a smidge too early and we missed a bit. I am not going to be able to turn back in on the same rows there very well. I think we're going to just skip a few rows. Not exactly the implement for that, but it's going to be way easier than trying to turn back in on such small rows. So we're going to kind of give this a test and see how it goes. I am going to turn back in, though, on this and see that we should have skipped 2 rows here. I just want to make sure that everything lines back up with GPS here, and we're not creating a mess that we're going to have a hard time cleaning up down the road here, which it would appear that maybe we are. So let's come in here. Let's look at this cedar. The cedar claims that it is 3.6 meters wide. And so let's bring up our GPS. And our GPS is at 14.47. And so if our implement's 3.6 wide, I would expect this to be at 11.8. And so we're going to adjust this appropriately and see how that does. Sometimes the GPS auto width works, sometimes it doesn't. And so here we're gonna have to kind of come back in over both of these passes and replant this. We just missed getting the cedar down, though. There we go. And we should see that this lines up much better on our left-hand side now. And then we'll just take another pass up and back here. Get this nice and seated so we don't have any awkward gaps here. And I think we'll be good to go on subsequent rounds here. I guess if we take a wide enough turn on the end row, we could technically get back into the same row. We might choose to just do that, but it does look like we've got GPS lined up now, so I guess we could do it either way. I could use a cedar that's maybe twice as wide as this and I'd be happy. It doesn't need to be too big, but this is pretty small. But the work area does seem to be lining up much better now, and so we're doing okay here. And it looks like our tillage is just about done over here, and so I'm tempted to get our tillage guy working on a contract on some of these other fields nearby while we do this seeding, just because that will give us the opportunity to hopefully bring in a few extra dollars while we're doing one of these jobs. Or maybe we'll put a worker on this cedar, because the seeding is potentially going to be a little bit painful, although I'm worried the worker costs are going to add up very quickly if the worker's taking a lot of time to try and turn around on each end row, where we're probably a little bit more efficient at it. Not guaranteed. And I'm purposefully going back into this row because I kind of wanted to see where this work zone adds up. I really think we're probably overlapping a little bit more than we need to. I wonder if the work area here is a little bit larger than advertised. I don't think we're wasting any seed by doing it this way. I think that precision farming and the cedar in general is smart enough to handle that. But it's a little bit unfortunate that we could be doing this a bit more efficiently. So it looks like the tillage worker just finished what it's able to do with that field. And so I think we are going to actually set a worker off on this seeding here and go grab that tillage tool. and kind of figure out what the next steps with them is. So I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to start the worker off, and away you go. We'll see how efficient he is. We're not using up a ton of money here for one worker at a time. And it looks like he didn't quite finish the field here, so we're going to go ahead and finish this. And then I'm going to go look and see if we can figure out how much money we're actually spending on workers here. Does it show up in here at all? I don't see any... Oh, we do have wage payments, $242. So that's not bad. I think a contract for a field this size would be like $1,000 or $2,000 maybe. And so it's definitely worth it to have a worker working on contracts, or actually, it's probably worth it for us to go do some contracts while a worker does the slightly more frustrating job of using that tiny little seeder. I think that if we're going to continue to plant crops like alfalfa or wheat, we will definitely want to get a slightly bigger seeder at some point. I think, though, with alfalfa, do we need to replant that? I'm thinking alfalfa is just going to grow back like a grass would. I think that's how it's supposed to work. And so we might end up not having to replant that field that it's working on right now, which would be nice. It'd be nice to just keep one field repeatedly growing alfalfa for us. I don't think it takes a lot out of the soil, so it's probably safe to do. So let's go ahead and take a look at the map here and see if we can earn a few dollars doing some tillage down here. We've got all of these fields in the mid 120s, 130s are pretty close by. Let's see if we've got any contracts for those. Just looking through the list here. What is that? The fire station wants to transport items to Walmart. Interesting. 136 would be nearby. And so that's a little bit of money. So we'll take the one for 136. Can I take more than one contract out at a time? 128 is nearby. We'll take that one as well. Nope, we already have one contract. So let's do 136 here, and then we'll look at taking another one. So 136 is this field right up kitty corner to us. So we might as well jump up there and cultivate that up here real quick. Now, this disc that we're using is actually set up as a subsoiler, so we're going to be able to use this to do both cultivating and plowing activities, which will be nice. It'll keep us busy from a work perspective and cuts down on the amount of different tools that we need on the farm. I do tend to prefer tillage equipment like this just because you don't see a lot of old school moldboard plows around anymore. You do see a fair amount of ripping going on. We're going to kind of stick to this piece of tillage, which is, going to suit all of our needs, I think, and not worry about it too much for the time being. There is a nice case ripper that I might like to try out at some point, but it's significantly narrower than this, so it'll be a trade-off of trying a piece of new equipment versus doing things the most efficient way possible. And so right now I'm kind of just looking at doing some of these small contracts as a way to offset my worker costs. I figure if we come out here and do a couple of these, it lets us keep our workers going in the field and get a few jobs done a little bit quicker than we would have normally. And at like $1,000, $2,000, it's not like we're going to be getting rich terribly quick doing these jobs. Plus, it gives us an opportunity to go check out some different areas of the map, some different fields, and kind of move around. And we're really looking forward to, once we get to the harvest side of things, maybe being able to do some harvest contracts and stuff. I think precision farming has kind of fixed how harvest contracts work a little bit, so that you don't get to a point where your yield is so poorable you don't get enough crops to finish the actual job, because that was an issue at one point, I know. I'm almost positive I've seen that got fixed. Alright, checking in here on our alfalfa. We're making some pretty decent progress. Not quite done here, but just a few more passes on these angled rows. So we'll be wrapping this up sooner than later. It looks like the worker missed a couple of spots here and there, but I guess we'll let that go for the time being. I did set the worker off on that last pass over there on the field we've contracted, just so I could come over here and kind of check out how this was working, make sure the worker is handling this in an appropriate manner and we're not just wasting money. So it does seem to be going pretty good. And so we're going to let that guy keep going, gal, keep going here. All right, we're just going to finish up this last little bits here. I'm going to plow this up, and then maybe we'll look for one more contract here to do, just because we've got this other field to seed. And so we might as well keep our worker here going, as long as we have some work that we need to do with the seeder, which I'm currently not the biggest fan of operating manually. And so I'd much rather be doing this tillage job. So we're going to fold this up though. I'm going to pull this off the side of the road here so we're not in the way in case any crazy traffic comes along. And we're going to take a quick look at the map here again. This one is completed, so we're going to collect our job here. And we're going to look for another one. I've got 130 as a valid candidate. 129 would be a good candidate, and 128. So let's take a look at the map here. 128, 129, or field 30, or 130. I think we'll take whichever one of those was paying out the most. I think it was 128 looked like it was paying out the most. And so we're going to do that. 6 acres. Accept contract. And we should be able to actually just run up there, following the grass headland bit here. I'm going to look at this map again. I'm still learning some of the fields. 128 is going to be up here. So if we just get on this little dirt track and follow it up and around, we should be in a good spot. And I think 128 is this field right on the other side of this upcoming intersection. Let's bring up the map here. Yep, 128 right here. So, looking at how this field is laid out, I guess we'll just take it all the way around once, give ourselves a little bit of room to maneuver, and then we'll figure out what comes next. Definitely want to make sure to take a headland off on this end, because otherwise, if we do use a worker to do some of these up and down rows for us, that worker is going to be crashing into these telephone poles left and right. And it looks like our helper on the seeder just finished its job, so I think what I'll do is we'll get to the end of this headland pass, and then I'm going to start the worker off heading back down these long rows somewhere here, and we're going to go grab that other tractor and get the wheat going into this other field. I did a little bit of research and tried to figure out what kind of crops get planted in New York. It does look like wheat is a crop. It's not super common, but common enough. And so we're going to do wheat instead of the barley that we could use. So it looks like this guy's going to be able to do something here, be productive. So let's jump back over here and get this seeder going. We've got plenty of seed in here still, it looks like, which is good. I was a little bit worried about that. And we didn't use up too much fertilizer either. And so I'm looking at this field. I think that we'll go the same way we did our tillage here. So I'm going to just go ahead and start it off right here. I'm going to overlap a little bit because we've got some angled rows down here where it's going to get a little bit wider. And so it looks like we are putting some fertilizer down. If I bring up the menu here, it is trying to maximize our wheat fertilization. Seems a little bit high, but we'll see what happens here. If we come to the precision farming menu, I guess, we can check out what it did here. This path around, it looks like for some reason we applied quite a bit of nitrogen on 137, and then everything else is somewhat more normalized, so I'm kind of wondering what's going on here. I will have to, at some point, go look at the requirements for both wheat and alfalfa and see what they're supposed to be doing. Now, this guy is not doing as good of a job figuring out where he needs to go as a worker. Hopefully after this first pass it'll get easier for him. Otherwise we're going to have quite a bit to clean up on the far end there, but it's probably still better than us fighting with it the whole time. It always makes me a little bit nervous though when the hired worker does some just crazy things. And of course he's going to drive over the corner of the neighbor's field here. Well, hopefully that won't be a problem after the next pass. But it looks like he's kind of off to the races here, so we're going to let him do his thing. We'll come back and check on this in a little bit, and we're going to go back up here and keep going on our tillage. Now, we're net positive for money, even with using some workers here. I think we were at around 44K when we started these jobs, and now we're at 45K, so no complaints there. And we are getting GPS to straighten us out here a little bit. It looks like I'm overlapping just a smidge from where the worker was. I don't really want to mess with it since we're already almost to the end here. But the next pass should be good to go. And we're just going to finish off these long edges to my left, and then we'll switch back around and figure out what we need to do on the other side of here. What I like about this map is that these fields are fairly bite-sized, and so you can get, you know, a couple of jobs done in an episode rather than Flint Hills is a lot of fun, don't get me wrong, but working on the same job across 3 to 4 episodes was a bit of a stretch from time to time. And so being able to knock a field out and do everything in that field in one setting and possibly even get 2 or 3 jobs done is going to be a nice change of pace for this series. So we're going to have a lot of fun here, I think. The end up by our other field is coming across pretty good here. But on this end, we're definitely missing lots of little bits and pieces. So we're going to have to clean that up at some point here. But it looks like now that we've gotten up here to, I guess, the straighter part of the field, that we're doing a better job. Kind of curious to see how inefficiently we're turning around here. We are going to do the backup maneuver, it looks like. Unfortunate. Oh well, it works. Actually, they're probably faster at that than I would be, so no complaints. We've just got a little bit over there we'll have to clean up when we're all said and done. Alright, we've been out doing some tillage here and realized that our fertilizer ran out shortly after we moved on here. So we're going to go ahead and just run this guy back up to the farm and top off the fertilizer and likely the seed as long as we're there, although I don't really need to put any more seed in here, but we've got quite a bit of seed and so it's not going to hurt. Now it looks like we just finished the contract on field 128, and so I'm going to jump over there and deal with that as well. Let's pull this fertilizer out here first. Now it looks like this seeder takes 1 fertilizer to fill it 2 times because that topped us off perfectly, so that's pretty good. And then we're gonna go ahead and just pull this right up alongside here, and it looks like we're gonna unload from some different seed pallets this time, unfortunately, but it is what it is. We're all topped off here, and I'm just realizing, even though our contract is done, this guy's still going. We're going to be a good neighbor. We're going to actually finish that up. Oh, it looks like he stopped. The way contracts work, you don't have to do 100%. You have to just do a good portion of it. And so sometimes I feel like the portion you have to do is a little bit less than I would have accepted. So let's get going down the straight part of the road here so that I don't crash into anything, and we'll complete that contract here real quick while we're driving. And so now we're at 47K. We've definitely covered our costs for today, I think. We've paid our workers. We bought a little bit of this dry fertilizer and had to have it delivered for a fee. because I didn't feel like driving all the way back up to town to get a single pallet of dry fertilizer. So we're in a pretty good spot here. I think what I'm going to do is get this guy going again on the worker and let him finish off planting this wheat, and we'll check in next episode and see where we're at. Today has been super productive, so I'm very much excited to have gotten our wheat in. By the time we get to next episode, at least, this will all be in, and we got this field of alfalfa in, so we're in a pretty good spot as far as day one early spring goes. We've helped out some neighbors. We got a couple of tillage contracts done, which is also super sweet. We've made sure a good chunk of the equipment on our farm is fully functional. And yeah, we're in a really good spot. This has been an exciting start to this series. I'm looking forward to many more episodes here on Susquehanna River Valley. My goodness, that's got to get easier to say eventually. That's all for today. Kedrick, out. Looks like he got stuck on a telephone pole, of course. Why would the worker not get stuck on a telephone pole?